Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you today for joining us for our semi-annual intuitive user group. Um, we have some pretty exciting things for you today, and I'm going to go ahead and let Jim Castellano, our president and owner, kick things off.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon. Thank you so much for being a PeopleSense customer of ours. First off, I think some of you have been out to our user group meetings before, and you'll be on to our next ones. So I don't forget, we have a user group meeting in April, and we will normally do one in October also. We at least try to do one out there. So we need your help if you go through the user group today. If you have different ideas and things that you would like to see, we need your help because we're constantly trying to put these together. And we meet with our team months and months in advance saying, hey, what are we putting together? What do we have to do? Show our customers, things like that. We need your help because we're starting to get stale trying to go over the same thing, showing other partners, things like that. So we'd like to know, what would you like to see also? We'll have some of an agenda on our own, but then you can help us with that agenda. So first I have to say thank you so much, and then we need your help. So what I do want to talk about is, first, for some of you, if this is your first time, please tell you about the PeopleSense history. So I founded the company in 2003. So I started the company and built it from there. I first started with my core products of HR and payroll and time and attendance, and I was a partner with Made to Manage and Intuitive back in those days. So jumping ahead, being now 23 years, App Team came along, purchased the Consona Group, and they got rid of all of their partners. So this is where we started our Intuitive division, and we started our Made to Manage division. So other things that we've picked up on is our ERP. We do ERP for Made to Manage, Intuitive, and now Acumatica. I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. We also still do HR and payroll. So any of you that would like to know more about HR and payroll, integrating it with Intuitive, or people who are on here today with Made to Manage, we can do that. And we also do time clocks, time and attendance. So time clocks that can integrate with your shop labor, things like that. We also do document management storage software. So we have a software called M-Files that works fantastic with our Made to Manage, Intuitive, and other products also. And it's used across the board for document management and paperless for HR, payroll, engineering, things like that. We have customers in over 42 states and in Canada. We also do have some customers over in Europe, because we have a lot of customers here that have other branches that are over in Europe too. So we have consultants that will travel. We have had some consultants that would have to go over to Spain or over to England, things like that. We have over 20 consultants on the on the Intuitive and Made to Manage side, and so all of our consultants on my Intuitive side, 7. On my Made to Manage side, more than 10 now. They are all based. Most of them are based here in the U.S. I have 1 or 2 that are based over in Europe that work with us also. We have way over 250 years of combined experience on just on my Intuitive side, and another 250 plus years of experience combined with all the consultants on the Made to Manage side. Just so I'll give you a little bit about all of us who are on here. We do apologize. So meaning that all of you are put on mute right now. So if you do have questions, down in the session, you can raise your hand. I think everyone can see the react button on your screen. Just giving you guys a little heads up, this go-to webinar, they change it up on us every once in a while. So this is new to us too, the new screen that just came out. So I'm looking down in my left-hand corner and I see the react button. So if you do have questions or anything, please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand, ask a question. Jess will see that, and Jessica, and she will let us know that you have a question.
Yes, you can
So,
throw them in the box, or if you would like to ask them personally, we can unmute your mic to do that.
hmm, which is nice. They've been adding this in as we've done it throughout the years. And so before you could never do that. Now you can unmute someone and things like that, which is great. So I think they've been adding more features to it throughout the years. So I want to at least tell you about my team that I do have. And I have a couple of people who aren't on the team here, so I do apologize. So me, I'm the president owner of PeopleSense, Jim Castellano. But I pass things off to Gary Cerny. So Gary Cerny is my director of the Intuitive ERP division. Gary's on here. Gary?
Hey, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Great that you're attending and look forward to a great presentation today. Enjoy.
And thank you, Gary, for getting everyone on here. Just so everybody knows, we have way over 20 to 23, 24 customers on Intuitive here today. So I'm very happy that we have that. It's a pretty nice turnout for people. We have more people will be, I think, coming in later in the next hour or so. Then down below, I have Jim Cooey. Everyone can see him on here. Jim Cooey's on my Made to Manage side. Jim's on this meeting today because his meeting is on tomorrow. Any of you who would like to come up to the Made to Manage side to see that, there are some more products out there that you could see, things like that. You're more than welcome to register and come out there. We have Jessica Canellis. Most of you, everyone who has come in early, has met Jess. Jess does my marketing and customer support. Jess, a shout out to you. Thank you. She's there.
Oh, yes, I'm here. Sorry. Yes. Hi, everyone. Sorry.
No problem. I also have on my team, I have Jim McCormick. So Jim McCormick's my sales executive on my Acumatica side. So Jim, any questions that any of you might have of saying, hey, we're thinking about maybe moving off of Intuitive or Made to Manage, and we'd like to at least explore, other options. And we appreciate us being a partner of you. And I know that you trust us. So we would like to at least have that trust in you to be able to at least talk to you about the Acumatica software if you're considering wanting to move someplace else. So please let us know. You can reach out to Jess or Gary, get you a hold of Jim McCormick. Jim is on here. Jim, at least you could do a shout out. I think you're on mute. You could at least say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. And then we also have Tim Lindsay. Tim Lindsay is our pre-sales engineer on our Acumatica side. Tim does all of our demos for us, and I can't thank Tim enough. Tim is not on here right now. I see that, but Tim also is an intuitive consultant. We call him the magician. He goes out to customers and does. He actually does a lot of the business process evaluations. Him and or Jeff Vaness. Jeff Vaness is not on here, but I see Doug is on here. Jeff does a lot of our business process evaluations, does behind the scenes, does training, things like that. So I have to thank him. We also have Larry Newby. We also have Doug Roth. Doug Roth is with us right now. Doug, thank you. I think Jeff's coming in later. Tim's coming in later. So thank you, Doug, for being here. We also have Wayne McDonald. Wayne McDonald is a CPA. He also helps us with our of the accounting side. So any of you who need accounting, general ledger information, things like that, Wayne is fantastic. He's a CPA also on our Intuitive side. So I can't thank him enough. We also have a CPA on the Made to Manage side. So thank you, everyone. Jess, I'll go to the next one. We also have other staff on here that help out. We have a couple that aren't on here, additional added on to us. So we also have Sam, who helps out with the account associate with us here. We have Deep, who does M-Files ERP processing consultant. Joseph, who is on with us. Joseph, I thank you for showing up today and being on with us. I know you're very, very busy. Joseph does a lot of reports and a lot of consulting for us with on the Intuitive, Made to Manage side and all over, especially with advanced report writing and crystal reports, Power BI, a whole bunch of different things. So Joseph, thank you so much. Then we also have Brendan James. Brendan James manages my M-File side, the document management storage. I have just a couple more minutes and I'll just keep going, Jess. So these are some of the products that we do have. So if somebody want to take notes on some of those, anything that you want to know about, please get a hold of Gary Cerny. He will tell you all about it. Some of the main things that we have is a lot of people want to go to a hosted environment now. That's our second one, MindSight. So please let us know. You can still own your software, but have it hosted, and you own it. Have it hosted, and then you can do whatever you want. You have your SQL still, you have all that. So some people who want to do that, just so you know, talk to Gary. We also have credit card processing and so on. There's a lot of other things. One of the things that we will be talking about today is PrintBoss. Okay. And so any other things that you want to maybe know about, please get a hold of Gary. Jess? Here's our schedule for today. I'm running a little over, so I do apologize. We will have our tips and tricks and PowerBI. So we do have tips and tricks on there. And we have our barcoding, pick, pack, and ship. We have KnowledgeSync, our Outplant Processing, PrintBoss, and so on. Questions and discussions. Please, throughout the next 2 hours, write down your questions and discussions. We have them at the end. And if you have even things outside, we're going to have consultants on here to answer some questions for you. And if we don't know the answer, we will get back to you. Gary will write that down, or we'll write it down and get back to you today. We do have an Acumatica webinar on the 20th. So if you would like to see the webinar, please let Gary know, and or Jim McCormick. We'll see that in a couple slides down, his email address. Please write that down. This video also will be shown later on our website. So if you do have questions, you go back to it. You can see it out there. You can get the email addresses, make a phone call. We'll get back to you. Okay. We also have the M-Files link from previous webinars and stuff like that. So if you'd like to see that, that will be out there too. So thank you. Go ahead, Justin. And I want to thank you. I always thank every time. I always tease and joke. I said I wanted to thank Apteam because we would not be who we are today without our customers and staff. And I thank Apteam because I think their service has gone down throughout the years that our customers have told us. And I thank them because that has helped us grow. And so I thank, and then I thank all of my staff for everything that they do and all the hard work they put into everything. So thank you guys so much. And then next. This, please take a snapshot of the screen if you have to. I'll go out to the website later. We'll be out there. But anybody's email addresses, phone numbers, things like that, we're very close to our customers. We even give out our cell phone numbers. And specifically, Gary likes when you guys call him at 3 o'clock in the morning. So if you guys want to do that, he loves that. Just to answer your questions. So just let you know.
Thank you. I do love it. Thank you.
So, all right. And so questions, if you guys have anyone, raise your hand, things like that. And I will pass it over to Jess. Jess, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And so we are going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to pass it over to Russ, and he is going to get with Power BI for us.
Hello, everybody. This is Russ Hayek, and I will be going through the PeopleSense Power BI.
And Russ, if you can make it a little louder, I can kind of hear you. I just want to make sure people can hear you too.
Let's see.
There you go. If you're a little closer. Got it.
Got it. How about now?
Yep,
Can you hear me
good
now?
to me.
A little better, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go a little fast. They gave me 20 minutes, and Jim took 4 of those. So, but this is going to be recorded, so you can definitely go back and watch it, and then also you can definitely set up a meeting with me directly to go through things a little bit slower. So I just have a quick slideshow here. Whoops. So the Power BI solution that we offer it's a pre-built ERP starter template. It's a fully integrated data analytics model that allows you to put some reports together really quickly, get away from the spreadsheet mess that a lot of people are in. We offer training for users and IT staff. I like to push, that it's easy enough where somebody with a little technical background, a lot of times your controller, your finance people have enough background to be able to build their own reports or add to what we provide. Custom development, there's always comes up, people want to bring in, item attributes or sales assignments, pricing, expenses. I had one customer do that, commissions, and other integrations. We just are finishing up a Salesforce integration that pulls Salesforce and Intuitive data together. Go live, we can get this installed in about 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. We have it installed and all of your data will be populating in what I'm about to show you. We do break it into modules so that you don't have to pay for something that you don't need. The base module has sales orders, customer item data. Then with operations, you get on-time delivery, inventory, POs, vendor, and then we have manufacturing. We do have a full-blown production report. Most of what you're going to see is a template, like a Lego set back in the day, where you're going to have all of the data. Let me pull this over here real quick. So you're going to have a ton of data, all the pieces connected together in a data analytics warehouse that you can build from quickly. But we do have a new production ready supply chain planning report I'm going to go over with you guys. That is an option. Just a quick on the setup. Actually, I'm going to skip that, kind of boring. I'm going to go the reverse that I normally go. I'm starting at the lowest level. This is the technical level that has the model and all the connections and all the data. From here, you can build your reports to test, and you can use something called DAX, where you're basically creating formulas like you would in Excel. Then from here, as you make changes, basically you can publish this up to the Microsoft Power BI service, which is this. So it's just a browser. I think I may have skipped over this slide. Basically, from the Microsoft perspective, it's $15 per user for you to be able to create reports and share them with your other users. Currently, I'm in what's called the workspace. You can also edit reports here. You can see all your data models, but you're going to be able to hit this edit button, change these graphs around, add content, create things. This could be certain people that know how to edit reports, you let them in here. But ultimately, you're going to publish this as an app. But it's just a more user-friendly interface for what you want them to see. And when you publish your app, you can have different audiences. So like maybe you want your finance people to see, your cost of goods and your invoicing, but maybe you don't want your operations people to see that. So there's a lot of security. I'm going to blast through the traditional demo, and then I'm going to get on to like the finished supply chain planning report. This is your Lego block, where you're gonna have all of these report pages. but really you're going to want to customize them for your own needs. And we can customize it for you, but we can also show you how to change things yourself. So that's why you see a kind of a mishmash of different styles. Just want to start pointing out, you can drill down through hierarchies. So I just went from looking at a customer view down to a product family view. Each of these, you can go into focus mode. If you have like years, you can go down into months or even days. So I want to show you that we have quote, billing, shipping, costs, what was shipped. You can do like year over year calculations, things like a top 5. There's a filter panel over here. You can add tons of filters, or you could just change this to a certain customer. So it's really dynamic. This is the inventory showing you, we have inventory adjustments, PO receipts, shipments, historical inventory. You can see your inventory, over time, current inventory, sales data, and map data. So we can show things visually by map. Everything you see, you can click on something to filter things down. So I'm looking at this one customer, can drill out on the map to see where this customer is. Maybe we just want to look at a certain product family. Super easy to like change these up and change different filters on these. Quote map. This is kind of a non-traditional but very popular view. It's more of a operational view for like maybe your inside sales, where you have a bunch of items, but maybe you get a call and you want to look at ball valves, flange ball valves, and you could have pricing in here. Basically, we have available to promise. Click on an item and scroll down, and you can see kind of a history of got a PO due. This is demo data, so not a lot there. Shipping on time. Filters like this, maybe you want to look at only your late, right? So you can see, okay, this customer, we've been late quite a bit, and it's trending up. Early might be something you want to look at. This is also on time. You can sort this by the ones that are the latest. This is just early. There we go. So I cleared that filter there. Now we can look at the ones that are the most late. Somebody can go off and see what's going on with those. You have work order information where you can see the status of your work orders. These are the released work orders. We can just look at the completed. We can look at the issue status. So released, hasn't been fully issued. And then there's routing. We track your routing if you do stuff like that. Bill of material, search for the parent item or component item. You can see the parent items and the components that are in it. Or you can do a reverse bomb and look at a component and see which parent items it belongs to. Just kind of, we have the PO data in here as well. Okay, I think I have maybe 10 minutes. So this is what I really wanted to get into is this full-blown completed report that we're going to make available to you guys. It's in the final validation stages, but really powerful. I think supply chain with Intuitive, from what I've seen, is always the most kind of difficult to manage, setting up MRP, what have you. This gives you a way to spot issues. It does show, your total inventory right now is 475K, but it shows it over history. Over time by value and quantity. We have built in this excess quantity. So you see here we have 286,000 excess. Actually click on that and filter these down. You can get somebody to look at this. Why do we have so much? We have 169 weeks of supply. Granted, it's low demand, right? So we have the average demand, the inventory turns here, but we also have the shortage, where we have negative on hand, and we have 46 a month over the last 3 months demand. This is kind of the heart of this report, where you can see all of your items, and this PO action flag is telling you, hey, we don't have a PO. We got 9 weeks of supply. You're gonna need to create a PO. Here you have a PO right here, but you really don't need it right now, so it's got the push out flag on there. Bunch of filters up here because you're gonna have so many items that you might want to focus in on maybe just your A items. Purchased, you can look at your manufacturing, and also I'm excluding your new items. Something that was created recently, you might want to look at this periodically just with your new item checked, right? These items were created recently, in the last 3 months, and so those might need some POs placed. But just going through these fields, there's a lot of good data in here. And again, this is something where you could start with it and, change it up as you want. But we show, the next PO receipt, open POs, number of days coverage, when are you going to stock out? This variance is nice, because it shows the 3-month average demand versus the 12-month. And so here you see a steep increase, right? So that's something where you might want to adjust your reorder points, your min-max, that kind of stuff. Speaking of adjusting things, we built in the suggested safety stock. These are pretty much all formulas that we got from AI, from Copilot, but these can be changed to your needs. But basically, it's saying your safety stock should be 87. Your minimum should be 417. This is the current minimum, so it's telling you might want to lower that. Max, suggested, order point suggestion, depending on how you do your planning. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys too much. Hopefully we have some planning people out there. Inventory history, but it does give you an idea of what can be built. But all of this was driven by a specific customer telling us what to build. So that's the thing, is we have all the basics, and your dream and vision can build whatever you want. Inventory over time. This is an inventory variance. It's a simple chart where you can see the items that have high variance that you might want to go look at. So you can see this one went from last month they had 1, and this month we had 62. So it jumped up. You can just sort this to see the other side. You had 29, it dropped to 40, it dropped to 49. So you might want to look at those. Your demand is dropping. Maybe you don't need to order as many. Another view of that, but over time, showing your variance percent over time. And again, all of these you can drill up and down. This is if you click an item here, you can see that item specific trend. I would think these would be more flat, would be better, more optimal, but that's something for your supply chain that they can look at. Okay, past due PO. Just tracking high level view of your POs, 51 open POs, 13% past due, total amount open. This is your open value, and then these are the past due remaining, meaning they were due before today. So that's something that you can click and see the specific vendor, specific items that are late. So somebody could print that out and give it to your supply chain. This one is, I see a lot of customers have a lot of items that aren't really active. Basically, this is saying, hey, these were created before 2025. They haven't had activity recently. And so somebody might want to think about just deactivating these. And then there's some detail pages here that you can actually drill through from the other reports. I don't know if we were taking questions. That was kind of my quick version. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're
That's
good.
you there. There you go. Are there any questions from anyone about Power BI?
So I'm not seeing any questions at the moment, but if you guys have them, you can submit them at any point, and then we're happy to share them with Russ, and he can get back to you with any answers you may need. So thank you, Russ, for your presentation.
Thanks, Russ.
And
Thanks, everybody.
we're going to go ahead and get into our next one with barcoding with Mike Bedell for current direction. So, Mike, if you are ready, I will hand it on over.
All right. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, great. How do I share my screen here?
So it should give you a little button.
It does have this is a new experience for me. I apologize.
That's okay. It's new for us too.
Okay, so we got to share this screen. Hit share. Then we go to my PowerPoint presentation. Is that
Yes.
in view at the moment?
Yes.
So let's go to the full screen. See if it'll pop up. There we go. Is that viewable on your end?
Yes.
All right, great. I think we'll get started. I'm hoping this new process works great. All right, we'll get started now, and welcome and thank you for participating in our presentation of the Scan to Track Pick, Pack, and Ship systems. Gary has made it very clear to me that there's some shortcomings with regard to managing the picking, packing, and shipping procedures within the Intuitive product. We're hoping our systems can fill that void by streamlining these activities and improving your accuracy and efficiencies at that final step of your business process. We'll begin with a short introduction of our organization. Let me see if I can get this to work. Oh, there we are. We've been providing barcode technology solutions for over 35 years, specializing in supply chain solutions for inventory management, work in process monitoring and control, labor and time control, and barcode label design and printing. Let's see if there we go. We've been serving a diverse customer base, including manufacturers and distributors from a wide range of industries such as agriculture, retail, steel, glass, rubber and plastics, government, and many more. Companies you may recognize such as GE, PPG Glass, LTV Steel, Dana Auto Parts, and Archway Cookies, Johnson Controls, and many more. We offer an extensive suite of application packages as well as customized solutions where needed, all of which work with our time-tested integration tools and utilities that permit us to integrate directly with all the major business systems on the market today, from QuickBooks to SAP and everything in between pretty much. We have our systems installed at over 400 different customer sites today, and we continue adding many, many more every year. In addition to our software and services, we're authorized resellers of most major equipment vendors such as Honeywell, Zebra, and Datalogics. So if you'd prefer a single source for all aspects of your project, we can accommodate that. We can also just provide the software and services. So if you have relationships with equipment vendors today, that's not a problem. What are the benefits? The benefits of automated data collection typically start with the elimination of production personnel filling out paper documents that lead to data entry errors. Real-time data, which leads to better decision-making for management and employees, increased productivity, improved accuracy, and improved efficiencies. Where your cost savings are realized in labor reductions needed for filling out paper forms, elimination of key entry errors, and subsequent error resolution, reduction of packaging errors, reduction of shipping errors and short shipping, inventory carrying cost reductions, and inventory safety stock reductions. This is an overview of some of the Scanditrek products, which include inventory management, the full-blown warehouse management type solution, or you can select a module to address a specific need, such as physical inventory and cycle counting, or receiving and put away, picking, primary and secondary, or pack verification, pallet load management and carton labeling, labor collection, recipe management, scale systems for loads and or weigh counting, check-in and check-out procedures. For each Scanditrek solution, we include configuration to your exact needs, testing and training, and each application is configured per specification, as well as configuring the HDP, which is short for host data processor, which handles the interface to your business system. Then we perform in-house testing of each application, followed by bench testing and the host interface to ensure that the communications are working flawlessly between both systems. Once all of the in-house testing is complete, we can provide on-site installation and testing, as well as online or on-site administrator and operator training. Once the system's in, you have post-installation support offered and available to allow for a single source for troubleshooting and problem resolution. Software support is available online, by phone, or on-site. Equipment support is available on-site or via depot repair directly from the manufacturers. Ongoing product support for product and software upgrades as technology evolves. Today we'll discuss the Pick Pack Verify system applications in particular. The Scanditrek system consists of PC-based procedures, handheld-based procedures, and the host data processing backend procedures that manage the communications with the devices and the intuitive host app. The back end is fully configured communication interface program that typically resides in the server and allows us to automate the interchange between Intuitive and Scan2Track. Normally, your first activity would be to select the picking procedure on the PC system. Alternatively, you can utilize the existing intuitive picking procedures to obtain a necessary pick list and use those with our handheld procedures to automate the picking and packing process. Intuitive pick lists can be modified to include the barcodes where necessary. However, if you want to use the Scan2Track system, you'd begin by selecting the site you are generating a pick list for, which you can see up in the left corner of the screen, right up in here. Then you would select the pick method, which is down here in the bottom corner. You have the bulk method, which is basically you're picking multiple orders and taking them to staging where you'll then pack the products later. Or you can pick by order or any other from staging areas. In this example, we'll do a bulk pick. You are able then to choose from a variety of filters available for selecting the orders you want, which is up here in this left corner. So as you can see, you have order types, you have ship start, ship date end, or you can select a specific customer. Once you've set your filters, you can click on the apply filters, which will bring up the orders matching your criteria in the middle upper portion of the screen, right up in here. So once you've hit that, this is what you would get. Typically, you'd scroll through these results shown and decide whether everything looks good, or determine one or too many may need to be picked today, or not need to be picked today, I'm sorry. Additionally, you can add a specific order number in the upper right-hand corner. So if something's missing or someone came flying in your office and say, oh, we got to get this order out, you have this option up here on the right to go ahead and put in a specific order number. The buttons on the bottom of this section allow you to check them all. So once you see all your listing, you can confirm and check anything, or you can uncheck or selectively check orders, which allow you to use standard Windows-based methods of shift clicking or selecting rows rather than checking rows one by one. As you can see right here, this is your little check box if you want. Now, if you have 50 to 80 orders to go out the door, this might be a little cumbersome, so using the Windows click methods may help you do this more quickly. Once you're satisfied, you would pick the checked orders, then you would pick the checked orders, which would then bring up this center section right here, which are all the actual orders. Lines highlighted in red indicate that you're short the inventory needed to fulfill the order. You can also sort the printed pick list by locations, name, default, or item. So this can be sorted in whatever is easiest for you to view. The buttons over here on the right, you can see edit notes. The edit notes button allows you to add specific instructions to your pick list that might be needed for a specific customer requirement. So that's kind of handy. The show allocations button allows you to switch quantities from one customer to another. So if you're looking in here and you're saying, oh, well, this customer's got to get their goods, so we'll rob Peter to pay Paul and take it from one to the other, that's allowed. You have the show open orders, which allows you to see if there's an open purchase order or production order for items expected to come in to meet the pick needs. So you may actually have production going on, and it'll be available today. So you know that red is just at this moment in time rather than maybe 3-4 o'clock this afternoon. In the middle bottom area, you'll have buttons available allowing you to select an individual pick item, to remove from the pick list, which is typically done if you lack the materials to fulfill the order. You also have the option of deleting the pick list altogether. If you've decided, oh geez, I don't want anything done right now, I have other things to look at, Once you're satisfied with the pick list shown, you can preview the pick list before requesting it to be printed. You also have buttons across the bottom here that allow you to view previously generated pick lists, which are the prev buttons down at the very bottom down here, and the next buttons, so you can bounce around looking through pick lists you've already had. Once you have done that, you would then hit the print after you're all happy with your choices. And in this case, here we have a bulk pick list shown, which shows you the actual pick number, all the locations where you would find this, the quantities available at those, what's required, and you can see there's a number of various orders shown here. This is actually a customer's bulk pick list if that we're looking at here. And in this case, they have multiple warehouses, so there's transfer details shown here. In this case, you do not need to transfer in anything to fulfill the order. If there was a need, it would show the transfers necessary to get this pick accomplished. In this case, we're looking at a pick list by order. This is much more traditional. You have a single order that needs to be fulfilled. Here's your pick locations that you could find the items at and the quantities at each location in order to accomplish that. Now, once you have all your documents ready to go, we move to the picking process itself with a handheld. In this particular option, this is allowing you to pick using a pick line number, which comes from your pick list that keeps each of the various picking requirements segregated and able to be audited so you know where you are at any given point in time. So you could end up having um, picking activity occur and all of a sudden, oh geez, I got to stop. I'm in the middle of something else. I got to go to the restroom, go to lunch, whatever it may be. You come back, and because you have this unique audit capability with line number associations for the pick list, you can stop and then start, and it will keep track of where you are and not allow you to try to remember where you are in the picking process. And as you can see, once you click or you scan that pick line number, the actual items needed are shown along with the description, how many are required to fulfill the pick, what you've accomplished thus far. If you're using UPC cross-referencing, you have UPC shown, and it also telling you where to go and find the items you need. The entry at this point is strictly the quantity, so you can either scan the quantity or you can enter the quantity by the keyboard, and then once you pick it up and move it, you need to scan where you're taking it. So in this case, we're taking it to a staging location. You repeat this process until you've finished. Typically, the command is to scan a done barcode that's given to everyone. Put on lift trucks, put on various strategic locations. When that's accomplished, then at that point you have the option to produce a pick list or a pack list, which would be included with the products. You could also ask for labels to be printed to be put on the packages. You could also be asked in using this tool to close out a trailer. So if this is going straight into a truck, you could actually go through the process of um, seal numbers and any other documents necessary to be requested to close out the actual shipment using the same procedure. The alternative to the pick list version, which we saw by order or by bulk, is to use the option that's called directed picking. In this case, you can see here on the screen, you have a doc number. This is actually from a customer of ours as well, where they organize all of their shipments by doc number. So they use their picking to go straight from stock to doc. They don't have sufficient space to do staging, and some of our customers do. In this case, their doc number is what drives the actual assembly of all the orders that will be put into that trailer to be picked. So in this case, the dock number is D2. They scan their dock number, and the system will then tell them, the operator, the item they need to go get and how many are required and how their progress is going, how many pallets and cases they've already gone and picked thus far, the bin they need to go and get them, and the UPC cross-reference. They go ahead and then they scan the from bin and the dock number, and they continue this process until they fulfilled the entire order requirements for the truck. And at that point, the system will say, we see that you're done. Are you wanting to proceed to close this shipment? They have the option then to enter seal numbers and do the other document printing they need in order to have the truck go out the door. Alternatively, they can short ship and they can overship, but at that point, the system will display an error message requiring manager override to permit such activities. The next option is what we call Pack Verify, which can be used with either the paper version or the directed version. And with this, you're basically going ahead and verifying the quantities are actually put in a box or bin or what a tote or whatever it is you're using for transportation means. In this case, it's all by order. So you scan the order for the customer's name comes up, the UPC number, the item description, and the quantity required in the given package. So it's keeping a status of where you are in the pack process, and you're scanning only the quantities that you're putting into the box. And again, this will allow you to hit done, and before the system says you're done. Again, you have manager override capabilities. Otherwise, it will tell you, okay, you've met the required quantity. You are done. Would you like then to have choices? In many cases, customers will want a pack list. They'll want labels to put on the boxes or the totes or whatever you're using for transportation. Those labels can be generic. They can be customer specific, whatever labeling needs you have. You also have the ability to request labels for a transportation company such as UPS, FedEx, and so on. And then those are produced as well. In that case, they'll use a number of methods for inputting weight and dimensional details. If you have that already built in your systems, we'll capture that information and provide it automatically. If you do not, then you would have to go through the prompts that would ask you for those details in order to get the shipper labels you need. This is just a generic presentation of a packing list that would be requested and potentially put with the products. These are able to be designed to fit your specific needs if you so choose. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. These are the types of equipment. I would think that most of you, or if not all of you, have seen these types of devices when you've gone to various retail establishments. You see the units in the upper left corner. These are the pretty typical device to use. They're pretty lightweight today. They have a handle and a trigger that's located on these handles that is very ergonomic, and it's very easy to use for operators, we've found. Alternatively, you can use telephone style devices such as the one in the upper right, or you can use these smaller version handhelds. The only problem is that when you try to scan, you're squeezing a button that's usually located on the left or the right side or both to try to get the scanners to go. We've found many customers complain because it creates a fatigue in your wrist when you try to do that, where these trigger guys up here, they're bigger. However, they're much easier at the end of the day to use. You also have the option of tablet type devices like you see here, which can have scanners attached to them, which are like this, or you can have a built-in scanner on some tablets. And then you have the most expensive model down here, which is this vehicle mount monster. And that thing you attach directly to your lift truck. The benefit of those are, one, it's a very large screen. Two, you never have to deal with a battery because all these other units have batteries in them, and that requires that you maintain and manage your battery issues. So that can be a concern. So why do you want to use all these pack verify picking processes and so forth? Well, it does eliminate shipping errors. Your shipping errors would go to likely, and what we've seen in most customers that use this, in the 1% range or less. You have customer satisfaction because you can identify what you're doing and ensure that they get what they ordered. You reduce or eliminate the returns from customers, which are many times very costly, both in your reputation as well as chargebacks that may come with some of your customers saying, well, if you don't get it right, we're going to fine you. And that does happen a lot out there. You also eliminate all your return freight costs and handling costs once the products get back into your location. And that's all I have today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything you might be interested in. I've been recently speaking with a couple of customers out there for different applications, and hopefully we'll be able to help them very soon as well. But in the meantime, if anyone has customer or questions, please feel free to ask away.
Yes. Please, if you guys do have questions, you can throw them down into your question box, and we are always happy to answer them. So we'll give everybody a minute and see if they have any questions for you, Mike.
Sure.
Mike, thank you so much. It's Jim.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much for everything. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. Remember, we like the feedback back. We like to know how did you like it? Any questions? If you'd like to have a demo, personally, things like that. Anything you want.
Jim, I thought you told everybody to call Gary at 3 a.m. and ask those questions.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So, yeah, if you guys do have questions, please call Gary Cerny at 3 a.m. Set your alarms. He likes that. He's up early. Right, Gary? I don't know if Gary's still there.
I'm still up today. Thank you, Jim. Mike.
You're welcome.
All right.
Our levity with our team. So thank you.
You bet.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. So
You're
there
welcome.
are no questions right now. So we
Okay.
will, that's okay. If our next presenter is ready, we will go ahead and move on. Larry, if you are ready, I can.
Hey, Larry,
Also-
we're giving you 2 extra minutes there. Mike gave
Okay.
you 2 extra minutes.
Yeah, I gave Vic a little time.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mike.
All
Okay, yeah, I'm
He made up
ready.
for my 3
I
minutes.
will. I will pass it on over to Larry Newby to talk to you guys about KnowledgeSync.
Yeah, so I'm here to talk about KnowledgeSync, and we're going to do this pretty quick, so I will get right into it. Main thing that I'm here to do is to try to answer these simple 3 questions. What is KnowledgeSync? What does it do? And hopefully help you decide whether or not you have an interest in it. Our ERP system provides a lot of information that help you do many things in your business, but things like tracking customer orders and invoices and payments and work orders and all that sort of thing. And your ERP system also provides tools like MRP planning and CRP to help generate things like purchase orders and work orders, pick lists. And yet, you still have to rely on a number of knowledgeable users to run reports and analyze data to look for signs of common problems. And they have to take timely action to address those issues. So, what? All right. Can you see
Automating
that?
knowledge.
Yay! All right.
There we are.
Right. So, basically, what we're suggesting is that you can use KnowledgeSync to automate a lot of this stuff. You already know a lot of what you need to know, and so why not push information to the people, giving them what they need when they need it, rather than having them go dig for it. And we can also automate the response to things. When this happens, we can go do that. So that's basically what KnowledgeSync. KnowledgeSync is an application that automates the detection and response to critical, time-sensitive business activities. It lets you automate. If this happens, then do this. So, for example, if a new order comes in, then send a sales order acknowledgement to the customer with thanks to request to review it. And so here's a whole list of different things that we can do with KnowledgeSync. You can, when an order's shipped, are you currently sending invoice customers a notice of the shipment with the tracking number? Would they like that? Are they currently sending out invoices through the mail? Why not send them out via email and save the time associated with stuffing envelopes and the cost of postage? When you enter a purchase order, KnowledgeSync can automatically email the PO to the vendor. If it's an outplant, there might be some supporting documents that you want to send as well, and KnowledgeSync could automate that as well. You probably have someone calling vendors to get updated delivery commitments when you discover that the purchase order is past due. But how quickly is that currently established or accomplished? These are just a few things that KnowledgeSync could be doing for you. More examples, if a sales order is past due, send a list of them to an expediter to get that resolved. If there's unshipped sales orders with required dates within 3 days, then send a report to an expediter to get that resolved. You can see these are just a few of the things that we can do. So here's an example of basically the output of a KnowledgeSync process. In this example is sending a sales order acknowledgement to the customer, thanking them for their order. So on the left-hand side, you see the email that is being generated to the customer, and it's got an attachment there, and then this is the attachment. The attachment is generated by the intuitive system with version 9.0.12 and later. We can just ask the intuitive system to generate that PDF file for us, and then we attach it to the email and send it out. Here's another example of a KnowledgeSync message. In this message, it deals with a customer that has a past due balance, and the company here wanted the message to be reviewed by the accounts receivable department before being sent to the customer. So for that reason, there's really two parts to this message. The upper part is for the accounting group, and it provides them with all the information that they need to know about this customer, where the contacts are, their phone number, all that sort of stuff. And then if they want to just forward this message onto that customer, then they can just highlight the upper part, delete that, and plug in the email and send it off to them. So basically, if you know what you're looking for or who needs to know about it or what action needs to be taken, then you can automate that process. And that's basically what KnowledgeSync does. There's two main things that it's used for: task automation, and then exception management automation. Sometimes, you've got somebody who is highlighting a report with a pen and then running out and talking to people about it. And so you can use KnowledgeSync to make that process far more efficient than what it's done with just reports. So what are the benefits of KnowledgeSync? Basically, by automating the if-then processes. It can save you time. It can make you more responsive, and it increases your knowledge by identifying things you might have missed otherwise. So KnowledgeSync has, basically the inner workings of it. It has a number of different pieces. It has a monitor that can be used to monitor your database. That's the primary thing that we do with it. But it can also monitor cloud applications. It can monitor on-prem applications, websites, and it can even receive mail and monitor the incoming mail if you want. It has the ability to send out notifications via email, the main way that we do it. It also, if you have a text service, then it can send text messages. And you can also do FTP and SFTP. It can create forms, purchase orders, statements, timesheets, things like that. It can run with Crystal reports if you need a custom report. You can also use SQL Server reporting services reports, and it can do third-party reporting like it does with Intuitive. And then it also has the ability to do charts and trends and graphs, that sort of thing. And it can be used to not only read data from your database, but it can also write data to your database. So if need be, it can update statuses and do things like that. Basically, the more of the inner workings of KnowledgeSync. It is accessed through a browser. So that's where the control panel is located. So you can access it not only on the system it's installed on, but if you allow access to that location on your server, then you can also access it from a browser or on other machines within your network. Let's see, wait a minute. I think there was another point I want to make. It's built with .NET, and it uses SQL Server databases itself, so it's all current technology. And the KnowledgeSync software has 3 groups of controls. There is the event designer up here. In this, I didn't want to do that. Sorry, can't click on it because that changes slides. So there's event designer, which is where it's used to build events and queries and things like that. The monitor is over here. It's used to see what's happening or what is scheduled. And then there's the admin section that you set up system-wide settings on. So here you can see I've gone into application events and into a folder identified as Intuitive ERP 9.0. And those folders help you organize your processes so you can have as many as you want. Within that folder, I've selected the events and then clicked on the edit icon on one of the associated events that's named Sales Order Acknowledgements to Email. So you can see what's in the event designer. As you can see, the event designer provides a simple framework for setting up an event or process. It provides a place to set up a schedule for when you want the process to run, and a place to define one or more triggers for the process, and a place to define one or more deliverables from the process. This event is scheduled to run every 5 minutes. And it uses a query named Sales Order ACK Trigger to check to see if there are any sales orders that are ready to be processed. If the trigger returns any records, then each of them will cause the email message to be sent out with a copy of the Intuitive Sales Order Acknowledgement in a PDF file attached to it. and then it'll run the SQL query to update the record to show that it was processed. While we're looking at this form, I'd like to point out a very useful option over here, which shows is to track triggered items. So we often only want to process a given order once. So, for instance, maybe only if you're sending out, in this case, you're sending out sales order acknowledgments, you only want to send out one of those. You can uncheck this box. It says repeat triggered notifications for triggered items, and the system will then keep track of all the sales order IDs that it's sent out previously, and if a query returns that same serial number again, it'll basically just ignore it. Each of those sections of those forms, schedule, triggers, and deliverables, have tools in the system to help you build them. So here is the Query Designer, for instance. A query editor can be used to build or modify your queries, and here is the example of the one for that we were just looking at, the sales order act trigger. And you can see up at the top, it gives me in the available tables, that's a list of all the tables that come from your intuitive database. If you wanted one of those in this query, you just click on the plus that's in there, and it would get added to the selected tables. The little arrow next to each selected table, if you click on that, it'll show you the fields in that particular table over here in the columns of the selected table. Double clicking on one of those fields will add it to the output of your query. And then there's other tools, like in this case, I've checked the box that say I only want distinct rows, so I don't want any duplicates. And then down here is I've checked the box to indicate that the unique field that I want to track each of these records by is the sales order ID. And so one of the tabs of this, we were looking at the columns tabs, but one of those tabs you can click on is preview, and it'll actually show you the output of that query. There's also a SQL tab that allows you to see the SQL code that has been developed by your process of selecting your tables and adding the fields to them. Here I've, in the event designer again, I've selected email, and over on the right-hand side, you see the, what you see is what you get portion of the built-in HTML editor. So you can type out what you want, and wherever you would need a variable, like in this case, I've got the first name and the last name that I want to personalize this message with. It comes from my query, my trigger query, and all the fields that come from the trigger query are up here on the right-hand side. And so I can just double click on that field and it'll drop into wherever my cursor was. And so I can very quickly, create a message to send to the customer, which includes, the sales order ID and any other information that you may have decided that was important. You can, while you're in there, you can add your signature block with your logo and all that sort of thing. And all of that is being created in HTML. And if you need to customize it, you can click on the tab that indicates raw message HTML there. And then you can actually go in and massage the HTML if you need to do that. So down at the very bottom of this event designer, you see the portion marked subscribers. And that's the section of the event designer where you specify who's going to receive the message. The standard subscribers are typically for internal emails. That's where the message for this particular event is always going to be sent to the same people. The advanced is typically used for email messages that will vary depending upon the record that we're dealing with. So in this particular case, we'd be getting the email address from the database in the trigger query, and so we would select advanced, and then over here you can see that I've specified that the email should be sent to a field called best email. The reason why it says best email is because there might be, in this case, there were several fields that we might get the email address from. And so as part of my trigger query, I included a field that I named best email, which is actually a code that will look to see if one email address is available, and if that's available, use that. And if that one's not filled out, then go to this other place and get that one. And you can vary that as many times as you want if you want 3 or 4 different places to look. And again, that's the example that we saw earlier. So the other portion of the system that we use a lot is monitor. And here you see I've selected the application events monitor. This gives you a way of looking at logs in the system. There's tabs up here at the top for pending, processed, or errors, and in some cases also includes triggered. Pending section shows the events that are either about to be submitted or that has been submitted and is in an error state. Checked, the check tab shows you events that were run, but they didn't return any triggers. So there were at that particular time there were no new orders to be looked at, and so it's only considered to be checked. It wasn't triggered. It didn't have any work to do. And then under triggered, as we have selected here, the triggered event is one that was successfully executed and whose conditions were met. So a single run of an event might result in multiple triggered records appearing. And so those show up here in this monitor. And then finally, there's an errors tab. Let's see, before I go into that, I'm going to show you that there's a plus over here that you could click on if you want to see additional details about this particular triggered event. And when you do that, you get something that looks like this. It provides the details of, this particular sales order was being processed at that time. Here's the error tab for one. This is actually on email delivery case. So you can see here that the first record shows up here. It was had failed because it couldn't find, it was supposed to attach a file and it couldn't locate the file that was specified. And then the second example that we have here was an authentication problem. Probably had a bad email address that was being bounced back. Or actually, to be honest, this particular one was when we were setting up a new email service and the username and password got bounced back. So those are just examples of the kinds of information you can see when processes don't go according to plan. So back to the original question that I hope this has helped you understand what KnowledgeSync is and what it does. And now it's up to you to decide whether or not that's something that's useful. We have a number of customers right now that are implementing it, and they almost daily come up with additional processes ways that they've thought of to use their KnowledgeSync system. So it's very useful product and can be used in many, many, many different ways. And at this point, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
I do have a question for you, Larry.
Okay.
They want to know if KnowledgeSync is replacing the current EMF process.
So EMF is a competing product. EMF is a product offered by Aptian. It's a very nice product. It's got a very cool graphical interface. This product is one that we offer as an alternative to that. You would find if you were trying to compare them that KnowledgeSync is a good bit less expensive, and EMF is sold and priced based on the number of processes that you want to run, and in many cases it takes more than one process to do one particular function. So a lot of times they sell it as a 10 user pack, which oftentimes you can only get about 4 real processes out of that. Like one process would be sending out invoices, for instance, and another process might be sending out sales order acknowledgement. So if you only get like 4 things out of that, that's pretty limiting. The KnowledgeSync product does not have a limitation like that. You can do as many things with it as you wish, and its licensing is structured around the number of connections. So a connection is basically to a database. So if you want to monitor more than one database, for instance, you would buy a 2 connection license as opposed to a 1 connection license. Most customers are very happy with the 1 connection license, but that depends upon the nature. I mean, if you're running multiple copies of Intuitive, for instance, for different companies, then you would want probably a connection for each of those. And then it also has a variance for number of users. There's extra cost for additional users. And the users in this case that we're talking about are only basically it's the logins that are going to log into the system and look at the monitor or do develop processes or that sort of thing. So basically every customer I think that we've sold only has a 1 user license, because you don't need to have multiple people doing that usually. So I hope that's answered your question.
I hope it does as well. If you guys have any other questions, Larry is happy to answer them for the next couple minutes before we switch over.
Larry, thank you so much.
One of our last presentations. That's okay. So I'll give everybody a minute here to see if they have any more questions and to see if that helped answer the question that was asked. Oh, yes, it did. So they say thank you, Larry.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I have one customer right now that has EMF, and they have bought KnowledgeSync, and we are in the process of converting their EMF processes over to KnowledgeSync, which is generally a pretty straightforward process. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of hours to do it because we can, in many cases, utilize the same queries that were built into the EMF process.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Larry.
Okay.
And
Larry, thank you so much.
Yep.
If we are ready for our next one, Tim, if you are ready.
I am.
All right. We are going to go into our second to last with Tim Lindsay. And here we go to learn about some outplant processes.
All right. Let me know when you can see my screen. So you should be looking at a slide that says Outplant Processing.
Correct.
Okay, good. All right. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I was thinking about this before the conference this morning, and I've consider myself very lucky because the topics that I choose for these presentations are almost always based on recent conversations that I've had with customers, and the outplant processing is no exception. I've actually had some conversations with 2 customers recently who had kind of approached outside processing in a traditional way, and we're looking for a better way to do it, and that kind of gave rise to today's topic. So in terms of an agenda, what I want to talk about is let's define what we mean by outplant, sometimes also known as outside processing, also known sometimes as contract manufacturing, but we'll talk about what that actually is. We'll talk about some of the requirements for setting up the intuitive system in order to do outplant processing. We'll actually walk through the outplant process itself, and then we'll talk about some of the costing implications of utilizing the system's capabilities for outplant. So what do we really mean when we talk about outplant processing? It's also, or outplant, it's, as I said, it's also known as outside processing. Some examples here are you are in the process of building a product internally and you have to send it out of house for some kind of perhaps surface treatment like anodization or painting, or maybe we have parts that we have to send out for heat treating. Or maybe we even kit components and send it to a contract manufacturer and they actually do the assembly work. Sometimes we might even have materials or components drop shipped to that outside contractor to do their processing or their assembly work. The key aspects here is that you retain ownership of all the materials. When you take a look at the bill of material, if you're providing those components to the outside vendor, you are retaining ownership. There might be some situations, especially in the contract manufacturing or the CM environment, as we call it, where you're only providing a portion of the bill of material and maybe the contract manufacturer is providing some of the other components. But any materials that you provide, you retain ownership of it, and you are in essence purchasing an outside service. The way I think about it is if you're producing a product on your shop floor and people that you employ are working on it, you're collecting labor and you're applying that labor cost to the work order. In the case of Outplant, you're basically buying that labor and applying that cost to the work order. But you probably want to separate it cost-wise so that you know this is how much it's costing me in terms of internal labor, and this is how much it's costing me in terms of outplant or outside processes. Any of these services or processes that you pay for, we still want to apply those costs to the work order. We want them to flow into WIP and into the product cost so that we can do all the normal performance analysis and variance analysis and all the things that we do when we're applying costs to work orders and dumping them into the WIP bucket. Some of the documents that are involved in the outplant process, obviously there's going to be a work order for the overall job. So you might be producing the shop packet and the traveler as documents that go along with the job. And sometimes there are copies of these documents that are actually sent with the parts to the CM, to the outside process vendor, so that they have some identification numbers that they can put on their invoice when they send the parts back to you. Since we are buying a service, there is typically a purchase requisition or a purchase order, because since we're purchasing something from that outside vendor, we need that document not only to provide it to the vendor in physical form, but inside the system so that we can do all the accounting. In the case of the purchase rec and the purchase order, there is a special line type called a work order line that actually ties the purchase order back to the work order. And we'll take a look at an example of that in a little bit. There's also something that can be produced out of the system called an Outplant packing slip. You don't have to print this, but think of it as like a packing slip that goes along with your parts or your material to the vendor. And again, they can be marked up or can carry on them as part of them the work order number and sometimes even the operation number in the routing so that all the costs can flow back. But again, it's mostly a document to help the vendor keep track of which job he's working on for you. And then finally, there's going to be an AP invoice because there's a purchase order. And when we get the invoice, one of the processes that needs to happen in order to close the loop on the whole Outplant costing cycle is we need to match that AP invoice back to the Outplant purchase order and the receipt transaction that gets performed against that Outplant purchase order. And again, I have a flow chart coming up that will kind of clarify that whole process and the relationship between the Outplant purchase order, the work order, and the AP invoice matching process. So how do we set up the system? Before we get into this, I do have to say that some of the customers that I've talked to who want to adopt this approach have kind of solved this problem in the past by actually creating an item in the item card that represents the outside process, and they build that item into the bill of material. And in order to get that into their standard cost, if that's the approach they're using, they put a cost on that item and they use the quantity to indicate kind of a cost per piece of the outside process. There are a couple of complications to this approach. One is that there's a pretty good chance that the on-hand quantity of that outside process item is frequently going to go negative because you're never really stocking these. Or you may have to cut a purchase order to the vendor to buy this service, quote unquote, part from them and receive them into inventory. But that whole process can get kind of messy. And finally, the cost of these service items is buried in the material costs, and it's very hard to parse out whether there is a variance between what I assumed I would be paying my outside vendor and what I'm actually paying via the AP invoice. But so that's kind of a rude and crude approach that can be done. But those customers that have been using that, as I said, have recently decided to convert to the more formal approach that the system allows. So when we are setting up the Outplant process within Intuitive, the first thing we want to do is we need to create at least one work center. Some customers set up multiple work centers for different kinds of processes. But when you create that work center, you want to make sure that you check the Outplant flag, which identifies that work center as representing an outside location where this process or processes can be performed. Also, by checking the Outplant flag, the approved vendor listing tab becomes activated, and in there you can enter the vendor or vendors who provide this service to you. And there's a place where you can indicate the turnaround lead time for that particular process when you purchase that service from that particular vendor. And as you can see on this example, there's also a default flag. So if you are multi-sourced on a particular process, you can say, well, unless I tell you otherwise, this is the vendor that I would prefer to do business with. And the default flag here is used to automatically populate any resulting purchase requisitions and or purchase orders that get generated by the system. The fact that we are setting up an Outplant work center probably suggests in your mind the fact that we're handling Outplant processes via routings. And that is absolutely true. In order to use this mechanism, The product that's being built needs to have a routing, and somewhere in that routing, there needs to be an operation that utilizes one of these Outplant work centers. The second setup is in the master controls. And in the planning cycle of the master controls, there's a flag called CRP generates PO requisitions. CRP, of course, referring to capacity requirements planning. And in this case, the reference is to the process called loading a work order. As you probably are all familiar with, when you create a work order, one of the processes that can be performed against it is to load it, which says basically go out and grab a copy of the routing, attach it to the work order, calculate the amount of time that each operation is going to require from each work center, and generate what we call load records. And that's the information that you see on the CRP workbench when you're looking at things like the bar chart that shows you load versus capacity. Now, in the case of Outplant operations or work centers, there is no defined capacity, so there's no real load being generated, but it's still going through this process. And when the work order loading process notices that it's dealing with an Outplant work center, instead of generating load, it says, well, I am going to create the purchasing document. And what this flag does is it lets you choose between having the system create a purchase requisition, which can then subsequently be looked at by a buyer and converted into an Outplant PO, or you can have the system automatically generate the purchase order itself. So if this flag is checked, you're going to get purchase order requisitions. If the flag is left unchecked, you're going to get purchase orders. If you want the system to generate purchase orders automatically, the only other caveat is that you need to turn on the transaction queue processor. This is a process that runs in the background and notices changes to the database. And in this particular case, it would say, hey, I need to create a PO because this work order was loaded. And so I will go ahead and generate the purchase order. Finally, we need to set up some information in the routing itself. And so what I've highlighted on this screen is an Outplant operation. And you'll notice that because this operation in the routing is taking place at an Outplant work center, I'm not allowed to put in anything like machine time or labor time. You notice those fields are grayed out. I can put in queue time and move time. Those are uncosted times, and many customers use those to actually represent the turnaround time. Although remember, we get lead time information from the approved vendors on the Outplant Work Center. But the other thing that we can put in is what we call cost per unit. And this is your estimate or standard cost, if you will, as far as what the vendor is going to charge you per piece per performing this Outplant operation. Now, there can be some tricky variations here. I know that in some cases, the vendor is going to charge a total lot cost regardless of quantity. But keep in mind that the cost that's entered here is really just an estimated cost. If you're using a standard costing system, this will actually flow up into your accounting value. But if you're using average or last costing, then you're probably not going to pay much attention to this. But remember that this is the cost that will initially populate the requisition in the purchase order. So it may require some tweaking once those documents are created in order to make them match what the vendor is actually going to be charging you. So once the setup is finished, this is going to be the overall flow of going through these Outplant processes. First of all, you're going to release and load the work order. And it's at that point that the system takes a look at that master control flag and says, well, am I supposed to create a rec or a purchase order? If I'm going to create a rec, then obviously the system goes ahead and creates that purchase requisition. And then subsequently, as I mentioned, a buyer is going to see those purchase requisitions, probably get on the line to the vendor, update the requisition with any cost changes that might have to be made, and cut and convert the requisition into a purchase order. If the flag is not checked, then the system is going to generate the PO directly. And again, any subsequent changes or updates need to be made before we send that off. At that point, we can provide a copy of the PO and send the job off to the contract manufacturer. And here you have that option of printing that Outplant packing slip. You may also opt, as I mentioned earlier, to send certain portions of the shop packet, most likely the traveler, with them. But again, keep in mind that what you're cutting the purchase order for is the service. So now the CM completes the job, whatever they're supposed to do, and they now return the product that they were working on back to you. And here's where the process changes a little bit, and this is where you probably need to bring your receiving people into the loop and do some training, because there's actually 2 transactions that are required in order to complete this, hey, I got the parts back process. The first thing you want to do is do a purchase order receipt against the Outplant PO. This is the equivalent of doing a move transaction if you were reporting labor on the shop floor, in that receiving against the Outplant PO actually reports a completed quantity against the operation. If you're doing I put the parts in as bills of material stuff, you'd still have to do the shop floor move. But doing a receipt against the Outplant PO will automatically do the shop floor move transaction for you. Now you have completed that operation. You have received the Outplant PO. The next step is, if that once the work order is completed, you're going to do your WIP receipt, which puts the completed product back into inventory. And when the vendor sends the AP invoice, you're going to enter that in the system and match it against the purchase order that was received. Both of these things need to be done. The AP invoice entry and the WIP receipt have to be done in order for you to successfully close and ultimately cost that work order. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We talked about the costing differentiation. Once you have an Outplant operation in your routing, if you're using standard costing and you do a bottom-up, you do a routing roll-up and a bottom-up cost, then when you look at the item cost screen, you'll notice that there is now an accounting value for the Outplant amount. It actually differentiates that cost from the routing and puts it into your standard. The activity of cutting the Outplant PO and entering and matching the AP invoice is what will update your average and or your last costs. Finally, if we look at the work order summary report, I've always gotten a kick out of this because there's a work order detail report and a work order summary report, and they are named exactly the opposite of what they actually show you. The detail report is a summary report in actuality, and the work order summary gives you all the details. But on here, we're looking at a work order that had Outplant costs, and you can see that when it takes a look at the accounting value and the actuals for Outplant are really coming from the invoice. And in fact, that's why you can't close a work order until you've matched the invoice to the Outplant PO, because at that point, until you do that, the system doesn't really know what the actual is. It can pick up an estimated cost from the line item on the PO, but it cannot know the actual cost until the invoice is matched, because there might be a variance between what the PO cost was and what the invoice cost was. And so the system will actually stop you and say, I can't close this work order because you haven't matched the AP invoice to the work order. So in order to close a completed Outplant work order, you have to do a PO receipt, and you have to enter and match the AP invoice to the Outplant PO. And so that, in a nutshell, is the Outplant processing in Intuitive. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Let's see. It doesn't look like we have any now, but you never know. They can always pop up. But that's okay. If you are done, we can switch over to the very last one, unless you have something else.
Nope, that's it. I'm clean.
All right. Well then, Joseph, if you are ready, we will switch over to our final quick little overview of PrintBoss.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me figure out how to share my screen in this new fancy thing.
I gotcha. You should be able to click the button I just sent it over.
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name's Joseph, as we said earlier, and I'm going to tell you about PrintBoss, which was developed by Wellspring Software. It's a software that's been around for about 30 years, and it was created initially for printing checks from multiple bank accounts onto a single blank check stock. It excels at this, but that's not what I'm going to be talking to you about today with it, because it fits a niche for made to manage and intuitive that a lot of people have a problem with. So when it comes to document automation, a lot of our customers, traditionally, the way that they have to handle, say, an invoice or a purchase order is they have to print them one by one to a PDF document. Then they have to go into Outlook and manually attach those to an email to send out one by one. PrintBoss has an integrated solution to help us automate that process so that we can send it out in one click. So let me give you an example here of what I mean. So we go into Made to Manage, or Intuitive in your case. And say you have an EFT remittance advice that you need to email out. Go to our reports. EFT, and here's our EFT remittance advice document. Down here, I've got email copy. So just pulling it up in the system like I would any other. Now we're going to display this. So here we have just a standard EFT remittance advice. Nearly all reports in Intuitive and Made to Manage come with an underlying email field built in that ties back somewhere in the system, whether it be to the customer screen, the vendor screen. In this case, the EFT remittance advice is tied to the email address field here is tied to the bank information, which is tied to the vendor screen. But if you wanted that changed to be another, or if you wanted to have it going out to multiple people, that's all customizable with PrintBoss. But we're going to go up here, click Print, and then PrintBoss gives us a pop-up to choose our form. We're going to choose EFT Remit for our EFT remittance. And now we have this. Has our document attached, has the email address automatically populated from our document, has a message body, which is predefined in our settings, and has the document attached. We can either go ahead and send the email now, Or we can close this pop-up and save it for later, which we're going to do. We'll go ahead and show you how that works. And tell you a little bit more as we go about what PrintBoss is actually doing. So here we have our interface. This is the PrintBoss 6 Enterprise Edition interface. And this is only one part of what gets installed. The big part of what's installed is here. The PrintBoss virtual printer driver. This is what's communicating between Made to Manage or Intuitive and PrintBoss. When we print a document here, it is reading the document for us, scanning for fields, and populating those into our email dynamically as we need. So to show you what I mean, here under Open Document Work Files is where we can see all of our documents that are waiting to be emailed. Open this and we see all of our different ones. We print it to EFT remit. And here you see we have our document. We double click that. It opens it up and here it is. So we could email this right now, but before we do that, we want to right click and go down to view the raw captured data. And here you see everything that PrintBoss is reading. So right here, we have the email address that we input earlier. We've got our company name. We've got our document ID, document date, document amount, our contact person. Anything on this document, we can assign as a variable to be included in our email. So let's take the email address right here. So I double clicked that, and here we see email to is the variable that we have assigned to it. We can trim it. We can make it all uppercase, or in this case, like I'm doing, say you don't want your customer to have to see that email address on the form, you can click blank out after capture, and that way they will not see that email address. Which you will see right here, when I take raw capture off, that email address is gone. So when we send a document from Made to Manage or Intuitive through that printer driver, the printer driver is scanning that document for all of these fields that we're defining here with this raw capture data. Once it's done, let's open it back up here. You're sure everything's correct on your raw capture? Come up here and click Email. And click Send Email. Successfully mailed. And then I'll go into my Outlook. You see I've got a pop-up here. And this is what our customer would receive. This email, which I can populate with any information from our document that we're printing out. And here is our PDF, which opened on another screen, sorry, with the email address removed. Now, as I was saying, this works very well with nearly every report you would need to print from Made to Manage and Intuitive. So if you've got purchase orders, sales orders, invoices, customer documents of any kind, we can natively have it set in Made to Manage to utilize that PrintBoss printer so that it communicates directly with PrintBoss. Now, one big exception to that. PrintBoss is developed to be used typically in conjunction with an accounting software if you're going to be doing check printing. Something that falls very similar under that is your ACH export files. So typically, the way that Made to Manage or Intuitive would handle those is it's not really a print function, it's outputting it and saving it as a text file. So down here, let me go into my Made to Manage folder. we go. And here we have our EFT files that are natively put out by Made to Manage or Intuitive. And here's one. I'll go ahead and open one up. This is the output that Made to Manage or Intuitive is putting out for an EFT batch. Problem is, this is not a print job. To get PrintBoss to pick this up without having that accounting software and check printing natively put in when we're installing, we would have to print this to that, which is it ends up being very similar to the way that you would do it now. You would attach the file to an email and send it to your bank representative. If you wanted to go into using the check printing function and using the tying it into your accounting software, submitting this to your bank becomes effortless. But that being said, it does require that we integrate not only to Made to Manage or Intuitive, but also to your existing accounting software that you're using. Okay, does anyone have any questions for me on PrintBoss?
I do not. But if you guys have questions, now is the time to answer them. We have some intuitive consultants on here, and they love being asked questions to answer.
Real quick, just to throw this in there then. The way that PrintBoss communicates through email here, we have the enable email module to communicate through Outlook. And the way that we would install this, there's multiple ways that we could do that. We have the most common way would be to install this with one license on a server. And then that would be a network install. And we would have it to where each individual workstation would have a workstation installation of PrintBoss that connects back to the server to read licensing information, form information. It would print through the PrintBoss printer as a network printer. That's one way to set it up. The other way is to do it as a local install on the server. And we have a customer right now that's doing that, to where what you would do basically is set it up on the server, and then you would have, say, someone from your accounting team, when they're ready to print that, remote desktop into the server and access PrintBoss that way. But it does offer you some flexibility there. In our email down here, we've got a default email address. Typically, that would be set to something like accounting at your company's domain. But it can be then set out to be using the email address of the person that's logging on at that moment. As you see right here, it shows Windows user, so it would read the Windows credentials of the person logging on. And then finally in here, here is how we edit our email body. We can come in here, and just like with a mail merge document, any of the fields that we have in our documents that we want to print, we can add into this here and save it into our PrintBoss files on your local installation. And that's PrintBoss.
All right. Thank you so much, Joseph. I am going to go ahead and throw our contact info up. And if you guys, you have questions, now is the time to share them. If not, here is our contact information for myself, for Jim, for Gary, and we'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you may have.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out today. And if you would like to join us tomorrow, we have our webinar tomorrow for our Made to Manage group. I just wanted to thank everyone. Jess, thank you so much. Gary, Jim McCormick, Joseph, Tim, everyone, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our wonderful customers.
Yes, thank you. Is Gary is still on here? Gary, are you there? I have a question maybe you could answer. He might have stepped away. I will get with Gary and Larry to answer this KnowledgeSync question, and I will let you know as soon as they get back to me on it. But thank you. All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for your questions and your feedback. And everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.